Hello everyone, Dave here, and in this video I'm going to continue with my page production process. In the last video I finished the inks on this page and now I'm going to start the coloring process. The first thing I want to do is lay down the flat base colors. I'll be honest here, this is my least favorite part of the process, although it is necessary. It's just good old coloring basics, stay inside the lines, that sort of thing. Pretty boring, and to me it feels like it takes much more time than it should. I just create a new layer under my line work and use the paint bucket and pen tools to fill in the colors. I don't have much more to say here, so I'm just going to fast forward a bit. Okay, now that I can get back to the fun stuff. This is where I add the highlights and shadows to the colors. This will give it that classic comic book feel and really add depth and dimension to the artwork. The gradient backdrop and green foliage are each on their own layers. This will come in handy later. For this part I'm using the spray can tool or airbrush if you're using a different program. I have it set at a low opacity and on overlay mode, which is black and white as my primary and secondary colors. I then use the lasso tool to mask out an area and then add my highlights and shadows depending on where my light sources are. I use different strokes and patterns with the lasso tool depending on the object that's being shaded. For example, on the hair I'm using long thin strokes to give the impression of the individual strands of hair. And then for the jewels and metallic surfaces on her headdress I will change my strokes accordingly. The same goes for wood or skin tones or fabrics. I've also duplicated the layer with the flat colors just in case I'm not happy with something. This makes it easier to go back and fix things if I need to, aside from using the undo function on the keyboard. I can just go to the flat layer, select the area I want to redo, and then fill it with the appropriate color. Then I can make another attempt at shading in that area without compromising the surrounding work. The shoulder piece here is made of metal, so I want to get a little more intense with the highlights and shadows than I would in the other softer areas around it. For the kobold's fur, I will use basically the same technique as I did with the elf's hair. However, it's going to be much more rough and tangled, not nearly as pristine as her hair. For their teeth and eyes, I use dingy gray and yellow tones in the flats. This will allow me to add highlights while retaining that dingy, dirty look. I've switched to the navigator window. This is a view of the entire page with the work area highlighted in red. I like to keep this window open on my larger screen while I work on the Cintiq. This way I can keep an eye on the overall look and feel of the work. It also helps me keep track of my light sources. For the kobolds, I wanted them to appear scary and menacing at first sight, but then become a bit of comedy relief. So here they look nice and scary, but that won't last very long. They haven't quite realized yet that they're about to enter a battle that's a little bit beyond their skill level. I haven't decided yet whether this kobold with the eye patch is going to make a return or not. If so, I might have to give him a name. If you have a suggestion, feel free to leave one in the comments. Who knows, I might even bring all four of them back. They could be my version of Team Rocket or something. I've always kind of liked those little side characters who show up every so often, cause a little trouble, and then get punished pretty badly. It could be funny. For the two characters in the foreground, I wanted to keep most of the highlights toward their front and the back more shadowy. This kind of helps add to the depth of the picture and draw more attention to the focus, which is the elf. Now I'm back in my workspace. I'm going to start on the background. All I'm doing here is I just took a generic brush with a brown color and just draw in some tree trunks, and then now I'm using my leaf brush to create the illusion that we're in a deep forest. I added a little bit of Gaussian blur to this section to create some more illusion of depth as well. Now I've selected my highlight and shadow colors for the foliage. Using the brushes mentioned in the previous video, I'm adding dimension to the bushes around the clearing. As I move closer to the viewer, I'm just going to increase the size of the brush slightly. This will help with the depth. And finally, I'm switching over to the grass brush that was included with the program. I have it set back on overlay using black and white, just creating highlights and shadows to try to make the ground look like ground instead of a tile floor. And here we are with the finished colors. Thank you for watching. I do hope you found this educational and somewhat entertaining. Don't forget to subscribe and read my webcomic on Patreon and Webtoons. I'll see you next time. Thank you.